What's important in a relationship is someone who is really competent in a relationship and has those skills. And those skills are hard won. It's one of the reasons that relationships with big age gaps don't work. It's not because there is necessarily a chasm in the way these two people feel. There is a huge chasm when it comes to their relationship competence and their experience. And that really does matter. If you're with someone who has a far lower level of relationship experience, then they either have to learn through you, which is going to be a painful process. They're going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to hurt you a lot in the process. You're going to feel like you're going to have to be careful of avoiding the role of teacher constantly in the relationship and try and be equals in a situation that's inherently kind. And you're going to have to hope that they do learn those skills. You're making quite a big bet on the idea that one day they will have that skill set. Some people take most of their lives to get it, and some people never learn it because they're not the kind of people that want to grow and be self-aware and do the work. And so I have come to really believe that my view of love has changed to the extent that I think, firstly, the idea of, is it about meeting the right person or is it about being the right time? Is it about meeting the right person or is it about being the right time? And I've started to weight my opinion far more towards time.
Wow.
That when you have decided it's the right time for you to really meet someone, you go into love with a completely different intentionality. Love isn't happening to you. It's not this wave that's washing over you, which is super easy. When a wave's washing over you, you just stand there and just bask in the goodness of how wonderful it feels to feel that sort of drug. But that's not the same thing as intentionally. There's a difference between winning the lottery and starting a business. When you start a business, there's a method, there's a pragmatism to it, the things you need to do in order to build this thing. I was a gentleman, I was respectful, in many ways, I've always been kind. That's always been a through line of my life, but you can be kind and dumb.
Yeah.
And you can hurt a lot of people when you're kind and dumb. So I look back on myself, and sometimes it takes someone who's better than you at a certain part of a relationship, maybe not the whole thing, but they come along and you notice that they, going back to that example, argue differently than you do. You went into fight mode and they went into compassion mode. And so I think that the exploring areas where someone isn't doing the same thing as you and it takes you into a different experience, that's not bad. It almost feels like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but maybe it's showing me something I'm not very good at. Maybe they went out with their friends and I picked a fight because I'm jealous about something that I think is, I've got this portrayal of what's going on, whatever. I went out with my friends and they said, hey, have the best night, babe. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Everyone I've been with so far is, when I go out with my friends, they get super jealous.
Yeah.
And that always makes me feel like I've got something to resist.
Yes.
But now I just went out and they said, have the best night. By the way, you look gorgeous. And I'm like, okay, what's that? Well, that's a new move. What's that one? And you learn something, and that you pay attention because you go, that was really interesting. That made me, my God, that made me when I was out think about them half the time. One of the biggest problems is people falling for people really quickly.
Yes.
Falling in love too fast, where it's because they went on a couple of great dates with a guy, and they can look at the date and go, he was amazing, and you should have seen what he did and how he was on the date and all of that. And the thing I have to always break down is that may not have been about you. It is about something he wanted you to feel by the end of the date. And not that I kind of loathe this culture we have right now where everyone's a narcissist. Like we're so quick to label.
Yeah.
He's a narcissist, she's a narcissist. I'm like, not everyone, we all have a narcissistic streak.
Absolutely.
And we all exhibit narcissistic behaviors at times. That doesn't mean we're a diagnosable narcissist.
Completely.
But a narcissistic streak we all have early in dating, and to differing degrees, is the desire to impress
Yes.
rather than connect. Crazy nervous on a date. That's already a reflection of the fact that you valued the wrong things, because you're valuing this person's looks or their status or what you perceive them to be, but you're not valuing them in a relationship or in relation to you, which is defined by how much they give, how they connect with you, how they relate to you, how they see you.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is you're at a zero.
Yeah.
So how can you be nervous if you're valuing the right things? You can only be nervous if you're valuing the wrong things. If that, to me, is the key to eliminating early nerves in early dating. You sit there and you obsess over someone who just left you, you obsess over what they could have been.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what it is.
Could have, this was so promising. They were everything that I was looking for. This could have been. And anytime someone breaks up with us, heartbreak is the loss of the life we thought we were going to have with someone. This is what it's been. This is what it should have been.
Yeah.
And my answer to that is, it would have been if it should have been and could have been.
Yeah.
Then it would have been. You're grieving over something that was not, by definition, it wasn't meant to happen because it didn't happen. In dating, you have to be on the date you're on. Mindful dating is be on the date you're on. Don't be on date 2, but really you're not. You're on date 32. Yeah. Your mind has to be on date 2 with your body.
Yes.
And when people don't do that, that's where they start constructing a fantasy of where this relationship is going. The person who has potential in a relationship is the poet. The poet. Everyone's a poet. Not many people writing poetry. Writing is the more difficult part. There are a lot of people who are great on a date, very romantic, very charming. They're a poet on a date. The poetry is the relationship. And you shouldn't, Bukowski was upset because his poetry was taken, the thing he'd worked on. And that's how it should be in a relationship, is don't get upset because you lost a poet. Poets are a dime a dozen. Poetry is rare. People who are willing to write the poetry of a relationship, people who are willing to stick it with you for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that's really rare. And we need to start valuing the poetry far more than we value the poet.